everybody. So today's an exciting day. We are moving into the very first degree of Taurus. We have a new month ahead of us on the cosmic calendar, Taurus season. So I wanted to come on today and talk a little bit about Taurus season, what's going to be going on, what kind of energy we've got going on, things like that for Taurus season. But as I was kind of taking notes and writing down the aspects planets were making and different things like that, I thought it would be better if we break it up into the 3 Deacons of Aries. So this video is just going to be about the first Decan of Aries, and the Decan is from the first day or 0 degree to the 9th or 10th, they say, but they also start the next one on the 10th. So it's the first 10 days of Taurus season. Just in this first 10 days, we're going to have a lot of aspects going on. A lot of what's happening in Taurus season is really going to be dictated by this first week. In particular, the full moon in Scorpio, followed directly by Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn the next day, while the moon is still in Scorpio. So that's going to be a lot of what I talk about for this video. Will be the first Decan of Taurus. So before I start anything, if you're interested in this calendar and you want to follow along with where we are in the degrees moving through the zodiac house, I will put a link in the description to my Facebook group, and I'm giving it out to everybody for free who's in my Facebook group. So you can find a link for it in the file section in the group. So to start out with, the first Decan of Taurus is ruled by Mercury. So all of Taurus is ruled by Venus. That's the planet that rules Taurus. But the first Decan is ruled by Mercury, which is interesting because today, the 0 degrees of Taurus, the first day of Taurus, Mercury is actually moving into Taurus as well as the sun. So we have a lot of this energy going on anyways, and with Mercury and Taurus being so much energy concentrated here right now, it's really a focus on communication. Now, Taurus rules the throat and the throat chakra in medical astrology. And so with the throat chakra being all about communication and also self-expression, how we express our creativity, how we express our inner self, and all of this Mercury and Taurus energy being there, we have a lot. That's going to be these first 10 days are really going to be focused on I do have notes here, so I'm going to be looking down. It's really focusing on how we are expressing the things that we want to manifest in our life, and especially in the material world, because Taurus is one of the most material signs. It's the second house. It rules your material world, your finances, your home, different things like that. And with Mercury being here, they're really wanting us to focus on the way that we use our words to describe our life and what we're trying to manifest. A lot of the time we use our words in judgment of what we're currently experiencing in a negative way, right? We use it to talk about our life circumstances, also relationships, because Venus rules Taurus, so relationships is another part of that material worldly existence that we have, that we're being called to observe the way that we're describing these things and how we are a lot of times in judgment of those, because it's continuing that cycle. The things that we're going to speak about during this time are going to manifest in our material world very fast, because that's the soil of Taurus right now. That's how this energy during this season works. So instead of looking at the things that you are seeing in your world, I'm using particular language here because how we view our life is really kind of altered by our judgments, opinions, and beliefs. It's seen through a particular lens. So it's not really reality, but it's the reality that a lot of times as we're experiencing it, we're speaking it into existence when we speak those judgments out loud. I hope that makes sense. So what you're really being called to do is working with Mercury during this time to talk about things the way you want them to be, as if they are, right? That's kind of something that we know a lot about in general when we talk about manifestation. But during this time right now, it's really important to do so. So Mercury rules all forms of communication and writing and things like that. Writing down stuff in the present tense that you're wanting to manifest as if it's already manifested is going to be really powerful during this time, as well as speaking it out. And that includes finances. It includes your like job, home, living conditions, and relationships are another big one. So that's just as Mercury moves into Taurus here. Now, later in the month, Mercury is going to move into Gemini, which Gemini is ruled by Mercury itself. So it's going to be in another like exalted position, another place of power. And it's going to emphasize more of that communication. But I'll do that one in another video because we're going to separate this into 3. So the other thing that you need to realize is the stuff that you're going to be intentionally creating during this time, meaning spell work, magic, manifestation, any kind of work that you're going to be intentionally creating has really strong staying power in Mercury, when Mercury's in Taurus, and when we're in Taurus in general, especially in this first decan where we're ruled by Mercury. So be very intentional about the way that you're talking about stuff, because it has staying power. It can go the long haul when you're talking about manifesting. So be very intentional with it is basically the overall idea here. Now, that happens at 0 degrees. So it happens today on Monday. The next thing that happens is Mars shifts into Cancer, and that happens at 0 degrees of Taurus, which is on Friday right here. No, sorry, my camera's backwards. Which happens Friday right there. 4 degrees. And this one is really an interesting one because as we're moving through this time, Cancer itself is rules. In this case, we're going to be talking about how it's associated with Taurus in the material world. So it's how it rules sort of your home environment, right? Because that's a big thing for Cancer. So we're going to take that really heightened, sometimes aggressive Mars energy, and it's not going to be as aggressive in Cancer. It's rather toned down here. However, it does have a jolt of energy, and so you're being asked to focus that energy into your home environment. So we're talking like cottage and hearth witcheries, just sort of nesting energy that way, and how you want to rearrange, focus on your home environment, changing the energy in it, redecorating, any of that kind of stuff. You can really put your energy in while Mars is in Cancer. Follow your moods and intuition though while you're doing this, because we do have a lot of that Cancer energy. And then follow your moods for inspiration in that way. The only sort of caveat to this thing is to the moon, or I'm sorry, Mars in Cancer energy, is that while Mars is typically pretty aggressive energy, there's a tendency when Mars is in Cancer to be more defensive, right? You're sort of emotional anyways. There's that Cancer emotion, heightened emotions there. And we have a tendency to use Mars in that aspect and get defensive and stuff, like kind of more sensitive and therefore more defensive about stuff. So just be aware of that and know that if you're kind of feeling that way, it's probably this transit that's affecting you. So that's that part of it. Now I want to move into the big aspect for Taurus. As far as I can tell from what's happening right here, the big aspect that I see that calls out to me the most is the full moon in Scorpio. That is followed directly by Pluto going retrograde the next day while the moon is still in Scorpio. So Pluto goes retrograde in Capricorn, but the moon is still going to be in Scorpio when this happens. Now Pluto rules Scorpio. So there's this aspect that sort of lends its energy to all of Taurus season, and that's really going to be, in this case, it's going to be on healing. So that full moon in Scorpio, we're making a couple different aspects. That happens at 7 degrees of Taurus, which is next Monday, right here. Full moon in Scorpio. And the first aspect that happens is the moon opposing the sun. So when we start moving into the, I mean, it's this way all the time, but you really start seeing it when we move into the cosmic calendar, that when we're in a particular season, the full moon and new moon cycles are reflective of that particular season. It's not so obvious in the Gregorian calendar, but when you move to the cosmic calendar, it gets a little bit more obvious that way. And that is, the moon is opposed to the sun. That's why it's full. So it's going to be in its opposite sign. And in this case, it makes it really obvious what it is, because the sun is in Taurus, representing the material world, right? And the moon is in Scorpio, representing more of that underworld, subconscious, spiritual aspects of our lives. So you have these two opposing energies, and the full moon and where the sun is are always opposing energies that way, meaning they're almost always across from each other in the zodiac. Every once in a while, the degrees get off, and it's not quite like that, but that's neither here nor there. In this case, it is. And so that's the first one, and that's really what it's highlighting, right? The difference between that sort of undercurrent of your spiritual self, your subconscious self, and how it's manifesting in the physical world. The next aspect that comes up is the moon trine Mars. Now, most of the aspects that are happening with the moon during the full moon are pretty positive aspects, and this is one of them. The moon trine Mars is going to give you the courage that it takes to look at what truly needs healing in your life. The next aspect is the moon trine Jupiter, and this transit brings blessings of abundance to all the work that you're going to do during this time. So the Jupiter is really the planet of, he's like known as like Santa Claus or Jove, right? He's a happy, very positive, very abundant planet of good luck that way, and he's basically blessing all of this spiritual work that you're going to be doing for this full moon, in association with your abundance work, right, in the material world. So the big aspect, though, that the moon is making is squaring Pluto. So the moon is in Scorpio, squaring Pluto. This transit will be a catalyst for your healing, as the god of the underworld shows you exactly what kind of pain you're hiding beneath it all. Let him lead you into your spiritual journey, and I do highly recommend spiritual journeying, as in guided meditation type of spiritual journey, for the full moon, going into the underworld and allowing that spiritual realm to teach you and show you what needs work. Now, you can work with Pluto to do this. That's one that's going to be really beneficial. You can work with Pluto. The other one would be Beaver Spirit, if you're into working with animal spirits and closer to the earth that way. Beaver Spirit will help you to navigate the waters of Scorpio and show you the foundations that your life is built upon, right? So this full moon, and consequently all of Pluto retrograde. So this is this full moon and the moon in Scorpio during when Pluto goes retrograde the next day are going to set the tone essentially for all of Pluto retrograde. Pluto retrogrades last a long time. It's probably going to last the rest of this year. I don't have it written down for the exact date for when it goes direct, but it's going to be a long time. That Pluto retrogrades last months and months and months. So it's going to set the tone for what's going to happen. And each season that we go through, Taurus and Cancer and Gemini and all of these, as we move through Gemini and Cancer and Leo, all of the ones that we go through are going to sort of change a little bit of how you relate to this Pluto retrograde. Other planets are getting ready to go retrograde too, but they won't be happening this month. So but this particular full moon is going to really set you up for how the Pluto retrograde is going to affect you for the rest of the retrograde that's happening. So it's really beneficial for you to do some work on this full moon that's going to help you with the healing aspect. Now, a lot of the times Pluto retrogrades they can be pretty intense as far as like shadow work goes, and you know, journeying into your subconscious or the underworld that way, and different things like that that can come up. This one seems a little bit milder in that it's not so much about digging through, at least right now, it's not so much about digging through what's going on there and like discovering the trauma, as much as it is just about this phase of healing in our life. So it's like you find, you know, if you're working with Beaver Spirit and he shows you these foundations, so these are sort of like the pivotal beliefs that we hold that are in turn affecting how our physical life, our material life is playing out, and how the lenses of how we see things, right? Just kind of like I was talking about in the beginning, how when you're communicating about stuff, there's certain ways that we see reality, but it's not really the way that reality is. We're sort of just reporting in judgment on the way that we see things as they are. Like, they don't really have a meaning, but those things that are those foundations of our lives and those spiritual foundations, those give meaning to the things that we see in our material world, right? They're how we place judgment, opinions, or beliefs about what's going on in our world. So anyways, Beaver Spirit, being one of the more aquatic type animals, can take you underneath all of the foundations of your life and show you really what's going on there and what cracks need to be healed in this next phase of Pluto retrograde in order for these things to play out and the healing process to happen. So I see things like having more Reiki sessions done. You don't even necessarily need to know what in particular, or understand when you do this work what in particular needs healing. You can, but you don't need to go have Reiki sessions done, to have soul retrieval sessions done, or any other kind of form of healing work during this Pluto retrograde. Any kind of healing work is going to be beneficial, because that's sort of the main part of it. I think I had that here. Anything else that I needed to bring up there? Focused on healing, soul retrievals. Yeah, it's just an interesting concept, or an interesting dynamic between the full moon in Scorpio and then Pluto going retrograde. Pluto rules Scorpio while the moon is still in Scorpio. That's just the big energy ball, the big aspects that I see happening in Taurus season right now. So this one's mostly about communication and healing, right? Being aware of how you are affecting your material world through the communication. Work on any kind of healing on your throat chakra is going to be beneficial through Taurus season in general. So I think that's it. I took notes. I'm hoping I got through everything. I usually end up forgetting something. Anyways, the calendar will be in the description below. Also, all the links to my social medias if you want to follow on like Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a really blessed first Decan of Taurus season. You guys have a wonderful day.